Thanks so much for being here, especially since being here, or really being present anywhere, is so much harder than it used to be. Welcome back to the 50/50 Project, where every week I talk through an item on a list made up of one thing I've learned for each year I've lived. This week we have a couple really exciting things happening. First, there is a construction project across the street at the Sheraton Hotel that is rumbling on at about 500 decibels, so enjoy that ruckus in the background. And two, we are going back to the love category for thing number 21. Be present. I know it's an obvious and self-evident thing to say, and we've all heard this old chestnut probably 1,000 times over. When you're with the people you love, bring your mind as well as your body, tune in, listen, be present. I'm not sure that 15 years ago this would have been on a list of stuff I learned, because it just seems too obvious. You shouldn't have to learn that, surely, right? But in the last 15 years, it is in fact something I have had to learn and relearn over and over again. And I think that's because the entire zeitgeist of this age in which we live now seems to be pitted against us whenever we try to stay focused or lock in or simply be present. And I blame the phones. I really do. Today, I would guess that when many or even most of us first wake up, our first interaction of the day is with our phone. And for too many of us, me included, sometimes the last thing we engage before we drift off to sleep at night is again our phone. And it has started to feel, to me at least, like less of a choice and more of a compulsion to keep picking that thing up. I know full well that this phone is not a friend to me, and that it is actually stealing away tiny pieces of my days and my nights that will, in the end, probably add up to a horrifying percentage of my life, and almost none of it will be time invested in something worthwhile. I think I'm going to look back and think of it as time really and truly killed. Time killed by empty distractions and meaningless filler, by what we call content, whatever that means. Day to day, I am siren-songed by notifications that aren't even remotely important, but are also somehow irresistibly urgent. I'm also so easily led down endless rabbit holes of inconsequential information that isn't relevant to me, isn't useful in my life, and sometimes isn't even really all that interesting. And I sometimes will sit glassy-eyed while a succession of reels that I didn't ask for but I can't look away from spews down this stupid little screen in this phone that is ruining my eyesight and hijacking most of my free time. And I hate it. Now, I want to pause for a second here to just say that I don't hate the internet as a whole. The internet creates a space for so much gorgeous, joyful weirdness, I guess I would say, and it opens windows into alternate lives and perspectives, and it lets us share so many sweet, affirming moments. And I think all of that can be really important in a time that feels as dark and dispiriting as ours sometimes does. I follow We Rate Dogs. I follow a hipster lumberjack who simply films himself cutting logs in half. I follow a TikTok account called Sylvanian Drama that is so wackadoodle I couldn't explain it if I had tried. If you know, you know, as the kids say. I follow a guy who seems to be a professional hip-hop jump roper and, of course, several hundred cats. I don't begrudge myself any of that content when I consume it intentionally and thoughtfully and hopefully in moderation. Because I seek this stuff out because it makes me laugh, or it makes me feel better about the world, or about myself. So I'm not coming for you, Seamus the Scottish Fold. But here's what I am talking about. Yesterday, I watched a 3-minute video of a person stirring a single popcorn kernel around a skillet until it exploded in exactly the same way I've seen popcorn explode in real life like 100,000 times. And I was bored by it, and I was irritated by the creator of this thing, but I should have been asking myself why I continued watching it to the bitter end. and why I then just drifted listlessly right into the next video that came up, which was a girl making a pair of flip-flops entirely out of hot glue. I'll see you in hell, 5-minute crafts. But this kind of thing happens with alarming frequency for me. I just sort of wake up in the middle of my third carpet cleaning video and realize that 15 minutes have passed since I picked up the phone, ostensibly to get a specific piece of information from one of my emails, or maybe just to double check the time. But there I am on some kind of obsessive, passive, almost catatonic loop. And I hate it. I hate it. It feels like a diseased and rotten way to waste my one wild and precious human life. Sometimes it feels irresistible in a way that's actually frightening. Like an addiction maybe, or perhaps some kind of technological possession. And maybe it would be one thing if this insanity remained a relic of my solitude, if it were something that only happened when there was nothing more exciting or more important going on. But this compulsion to check and recheck, to scroll, to click, this shit follows me to lunch dates and coffee shops and even into phone conversations. The pings and the dings and the rings and the pop-ups can make it really hard to focus, even when there's a beautiful, beloved face right across the table from me. Even when that face is one of my favorite and most treasured sights in my entire world. I've sometimes wondered about the experience of my cat, who I had for 14 years. I got her before the smartphone revolution happened, and then about halfway through her life, I got my first BlackBerry. Remember those? And I've sometimes wondered if she ever wondered what in the hell that thing was and why it changed my behavior so dramatically. I regret not being as present with her in the second half of her life as I probably was in the first. And while the people around us understand what's happening and are probably just as distracted by phones as we are, for some reason I sometimes wonder about the animals in our lives and what they do or don't comprehend. And it makes me a little sad. Of course, distraction isn't anything new. I imagine we've always had some trouble listening to each other, probably since the dawn of human time. More recently, I can definitely remember my father in the 80s decrying the impossibility of getting kids to talk, either to their parents or to each other, since the advent of the Atari. And my grandmother countered that the American family probably hadn't had a truly focused conversation since the golden age of radio. And maybe neither one of them was wrong. But these smartphones, I think these are just another kind of thing entirely. And I think it's quite possible that we're not ready for them and we can't handle them and they will destroy us. Happy Monday. And even if that turns out to be hyperbole, I'm quite sure that these phones have and that they will continue to destroy some of our relationships, to corrode some of our connections, especially if we can't figure out where their place is and decide to resolutely put and keep them there. And as usual, I'm talking first and foremost to myself here. I'm really concerned about my own growing incapacity to shut down that phone and pay attention to the people or the person I'm with at the moment. I'm having trouble now really stepping into a bubble with them, even for a little while. It's harder than it sounds to put down the phone, because to put down the phone is to shut out the entire goddamn world of information and events and developments, to shut out every single one of your contacts and all of their communications, to try to keep out all of these things that just insistently, maybe insidiously, want to buzz their way into our consciousness every second of every day. And this is a huge problem, because the ways in which I, at least, typically bond deeply with others can so easily be derailed and disrupted. The ways in which I forge and deepen and maintain ties of friendship and love, they're all just sort of still and gentle and fragile. They involve talking, yes, but they're also about the silence of real listening, about the unhurried passage of shared time in that fragile, fleeting attention bubble. They're about the act of simply existing in comfortable and very often quiet concert with another person. And I'm worried that we are losing the leisure of sussing out feelings and the act of honoring the other person with true attention and real focus and presence. And when a conversation with a friend or a walk with your significant other or even a game of fetch with your dog is interrupted by 1,000 kinds of intrusion and distraction, it breaks something really vital in that interaction, I think. There's a wonderful book by a writer named Jenny Odell called How to Do Nothing, with a subtitle that I have forgotten, but I will look up for the episode notes. And this book is about what we lose when we are never, ever unplugged from everything. And I think she gets to the heart of how this impacts love and relationships when she says, to do nothing is to hold yourself still so that you can perceive what is actually there. That place of perception, that space where I'm alone with the people I love, it's the space where I can see them and they can see me, where I can know them and be known by them, and where I can love them and truly be loved by them fully and wholeheartedly. And you can't do that if 10 emails and a TikTok video are pushing their way into that once sacred space. So my point is that I want to be present in that communications bubble for the people I love. And to do that, I'm going to have to learn to close some gates. Turn off the phone, put it away, lean in, listen, be attuned, be present. I recently started putting my phone in a Ziploc bag when I'm going out to meet my friends for a drink or a meal or a coffee. And this helps because it's weird to be carrying around your phone in a Ziploc bag, and so I avoid getting it out because I don't want to look weird. I did accidentally grab it at lunch once, fairly recently with a friend, and for whatever reason, I told this preposterous lie on the spot about having sand in my wallet that the bag was protecting my phone from. I have no idea why I said that. It just seems so shameful to have to tell this person, who is one of those people who really, really has her own shit together, by the way, that I can't control my own use of my cell phone. And in that moment, I guess I thought it was less weird to have a wallet full of sand? I don't know. But anyway, bracketing that mess, I think it is useful to try to put some kind of minor barrier between me and this device, however thin and transparent. And when I reach for the phone and I lay hands on it and remember that it's sealed up like a snack, I think about how odd that will look, and I tend to leave it in my purse or my pocket for another second, and that slows me down just enough so that I can remember to maintain that space in which I can be present for and with the other person. In some ways, I think technology is wondrous, and we're living in a golden age. But in a lot of other ways, I find technology absolutely harrowing. And I think we are allowing it to sand away at some of the most defining and beautiful things about being real, physical, finite beings alive in a real, physical, finite world. I see this at work in my own ever-diminishing capacities to focus, but I think I've also become more determined to do whatever I need to do, however weird, to protect that quiet, fragile relational space where you can really hear and see and know and love others, to be present, to be present, to be present. Okay then, I think that's about enough of this for now. I hope you get some time in the bubble with the people you care most about today. Thanks for spending some time with me. I'll be back next week with thing number 22.